Hey guys, it's Mike coming to you from St. Cloud, Florida, and it is hot today. According to the car, it's 99 degrees. The actual weather service says it's a bit less, but I'd be hard pressed to believe it because I could probably cook an egg on the hood of this car. In fact, I know I can. Anyway, so I posted a video the other day about this car charge mount that I'm using right now to take this video. If you haven't checked that out, check it out. This is probably the best thing that you could buy for your car if you're traveling. And, you know, as I've gotten older in life, I've changed my priorities a bit. So it's like, yeah, my ex-wife, she's still got the $700 a month luxury car. Myself, I've decided to pare it down a bit. So I'm driving a 2007 Hyundai Azera that I paid cash for. And that's the best part of it. I own this thing, which is... when you think about it, with the current uncertainty of the world around us, such as with this COVID-19 thing and everybody losing their jobs, it's kind of nice to have something, you know, isn't going to be taken away from you if you have a gap in your employment. And hopefully I don't, because I'll probably lose my house in the process, but at least I know I'll have this ancient car to drive. Anyway, it's actually a good car. It runs like it's new. I'm guessing it's highway miles. It's got 200,000 of those said miles. The only thing that I had it checked out by a mechanic, everything's fine. The only thing that bothers me, and I'm getting used to it as sort of a character trait, is the car squeaks and makes all sorts of weird noises, but it runs good, gets you where you want to go. What else do you want in life? And I've had some really, really nice cars in my life. I've owned Corvettes, I've owned Mustangs, I've owned Acuras, I've owned you name it. Oh, I've had a Dodge SRT10. That thing was a ton of fun. Why I don't have a lot saved right now. I spend it all on cars, but at this point in my life, I'm just happy with transportation. And for those of you that don't know, until I moved to Florida and got married again, I actually didn't have a car for a while. I was traveling so much for work, I would just rent a car on the job, and when I came home for the weekend, if I didn't have too much to do, I would Uber it. And if I had a lot to do on a particular weekend, I would just rent a car for that weekend, and it made more financial sense for me to do so. However, I've gotten to the point now, because I'm home so much more, again, thanks to COVID, that I need a vehicle. So this worked out well. Anyway, talking about technology. Apple has made some interesting announcements recently, one of which is the move to Apple Silicon. And I'm certainly not the first person to make a video on that topic. Lots of people have done so. Doesn't affect me directly yet. And when I say moving to Apple Silicon, I'm talking about their laptops and their desktops moving off of Intel and switching to use the same chipset that the iPad uses, or a similar chipset, but essentially they're going to ARM processors. So I am old enough to have been part of the last transition from Power Mac processors, which were invented by basically the G5 was created by IBM and kicked over to Intel, and that was exciting for a number of reasons. One, Windows was still the default desktop platform, and Mac was still a creative platform. Wasn't nearly as big as it is now, but the move to Intel allowed those of us that had to keep our feet in both worlds to also run the Windows operating system either through Boot Camp or through virtualization. Now, to be fair, there was virtualization software on the Power Mac. However, for those of you that were around long enough to say you've used it, it was slow. It was basically, you could use it in a pinch if you had to. I wouldn't recommend the experience, even on a fully decked out G5 tower. I wouldn't recommend that experience to anybody. Anyway, one of the disadvantages of moving to ARM right now is we are most likely going to lose that Windows compatibility. Yes, there's a Windows available for ARM. Yes, I've used it, and yes, it was a subpar experience even on native hardware. But I still do run some virtual machines. Now, there are alternatives. I could remote into a home server and run Windows that way, virtually. Or I can start re-examining how many things do I actually need Windows for. And it's less and less now. It seems the web is the new default platform for a lot of stuff. You can even do video editing on the web if you had to. But for those of us that are creative, most of the apps we need are sincerely now available either on the Mac platform or on the Windows platform itself. So it may just be something as simple as taking your couple Windows apps and getting the Mac version of them. And I assume, based on my experience with the last transition, that most of the popular and useful Mac apps will make that transition over to ARM. Performance remains to be seen, but Apple's not stupid. I'm sure they will somehow get the performance up and running. There's a couple classes of users that if I were in, I would be a little bit concerned, one of which is gamers that rely heavily on external video cards. We do not, it's starting to appear that Apple will not support external video cards, whether it's from NVIDIA, AMD, or anybody else. So this will be interesting to see. They're saying they're going to have their own onboard video chip, sort of like they do with the iPad, and it's going to have great performance, and it might. Remains to be seen. But I'll wait and see on that. And I guess video rendering, which also occasionally relies on those external graphics cards to do the rendering. So I'd wait and see on that. And the other group that I would be concerned with right now, and this affects me more than any of the other ones, is what if you need to buy new hardware right now? My Macs tend to last me a very, very long time. Okay, so my I forget what year it was, but my old G5 Power Mac lasted me a good 7 or 8 years, and I was still able to use it. And I still used it for a bit after the transition to Intel, even though Apple basically abandoned it, which is what I'm getting to with this. It was harder to find support, harder to find software. Eventually, they stopped updating the OS for it. And any new apps started to be deprecated on the PowerPC platform. So Apple's saying it's going to take 2 years to fully complete their transition. So I've got an iMac right now, which is 2013, which is right around that 7-year mark. Right now, I don't use it every day, but the rest of the family does, and it still runs fairly well. I was hoping to actually replace that this year with something newer. However, a couple things happened. One, the COVID thing's making me watch the finances a bit more. And second, now I'm concerned about this transition period, because if they handle this like they handled the last one, you're basically going to be buying a machine that's going to be basically useless in about 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 if you're lucky. Macs aren't cheap, but one of the ways I'm able to justify the cost is they last so damn long that they more than pay for themselves. Very rare that I have a PC to last that long, although I do have one desktop tower right now running on an Intel 4790K processor with 32 gigs of RAM that's about 5 years old, that I'm about ready to upgrade and give to my son. But that's the exception rather than the rule. Most of my PCs don't last nearly that long. I've got one ThinkPad that's much newer that is basically a doorway at this point. Anyway, so I know when it comes to hardware purchases, if it gets to the point that I absolutely need to get one, I'll probably get one, but I won't be buying top end. I'll get whatever gets me through the next 2 to 3 years. If I don't need one, I'm going to wait and see what the Apple Silicon processors and the Macs look like. And I never really want to buy a first generation either, so that puts me out probably about 2 to 3 years to even buy something new. And I want to see how the performance is, and I want to see how the apps work. So that's my take on that. If you need a Mac right now, get it, but get the cheapest thing that you can get away with, because you're probably going to have to replace it sooner than you otherwise would have guessed or would have expected to. If you don't need one now, wait and see what Apple releases. They said they're going to release more Intel Macs this year. I'm not holding my breath on that. I mean, I'm sure they are going to release them, but again, it's like you're releasing dead PCs walking. Yeah, that's just the way Apple does stuff. When they transition, it's quick and fast and done. In other news, I've still got my iPad here. This is a 12.9-inch iPad Pro that I use actually for my personal travel and my personal email and my work email. And I can even remote control home computers, Macs, or desktops with it. I've got a Logitech keyboard with it. I love this thing. This is a model that came out in 2015 and was produced until 2017. And I've been looking longingly at the new iPad Pros with the thin bezels and they have Face ID, which I could leave or take. That's not a big driving factor for me. But what is on the new iPads is the USB-C ports, because it has so much more versatility and so much more flexibility. But this one runs just fine. So until I can find a reason to go and spend $1,000 plus, not including the keyboard, maybe I'm getting frugal in my old age. It's getting harder to justify these big purchases. But when I do, I'm sure I'm going to be quite happy with it, and I'm sure I won't regret it, because, like I said, this thing here, technically it's a 5-year-old model, and it still runs. It's not an iPad Air, it's an iPad Pro, and it still runs very, very good. I've done video editing on this thing. Doesn't miss a beat. It's just quick. So I guess in this case, I'm looking for comments. How often do you update your mobile technology hardware? On my phone, I used to carry both an iPhone and an iPad, and then I started to fall in love with the Galaxy Note line, and I've had pretty much every Galaxy Note since the Note 3. My favorite along that trip was the Note 7, which unfortunately was ill-fated, and they made me sit through 2 terrible Galaxy S7 releases until I was able to, until I re-released the Note 8, which I liked, and I liked the Note 8 so much I skipped the Note 9, and I'm currently on a Note 10 Plus, and this thing's a beast. I can plug it into a keyboard, monitor, use it as a desktop if I wanted to. There's not much I can't do on this device. So I don't see myself upgrading anytime soon, even though I am a fan of iOS and iPhone OS. And right now I'm working on a mobile project which is all iOS. So I've been immersed into that. I don't expect to update this Note 10 in the next year or so. And I'll be honest, with the way the mobile prices are going up, I may do some pushback. For example, this Note 10, when it was released, Note 10 Plus was over $1,000. I waited till I was able to get it on sale for significantly cheaper before buying that, and I bought it with the expectation of keeping it at least 2 years. So I'm only in my first year. So the Note 11 may be coming out, and I'll probably look at it and go, that's really cool. But unless it's got some killer feature, I'm probably going to skip that particular release. But iOS, I mean, my daughter went and bought an iPhone 11 Pro Max, which I think I did an unboxing on. It's a beautiful phone. It does everything. But they've gone absolutely nuts on the price. So, if they do that again, I'm probably just going to, I don't know. I was looking at the iPhone SE. It's minimalist, but it's got all the, other than the triple camera setup, which admittedly I would like to have, it's got all the horsepower of the iPhone 11. So my next phone, I'm debating, I might go, if I don't stick with a flagship, I might just go with an equally capable budget phone, if you will. I don't know what you call those. But I did talk my dad into getting his first iPhone from Android. I seem to have heard from him a lot less as far as having problems go. So Apple does hold its reputation with being simple to use. Although I did have to make him a small video on the basics of the iPhone. But for the most part, he's pretty happy with it. That's about it for me. I'm kind of rambling at this point. So be safe out there, guys. My public service announcement: mask up when you go out, just courtesy to other people. And we are having a spike in this COVID here in Florida, and if people wore these and kept distance from people, we wouldn't be having this spike, unless it's spreading by some means that nobody's figured out yet. So we want this thing to end. We don't want to close our businesses. We want to be able to go on with our lives normally. The only way we do that is by doing our part to keep it from spreading. Honestly, I don't think the government knows what the heck they're doing when it comes to this thing at this point. I'm not even sure the CDC or the WHO knows what's going on at this point. So our best hope is to try to mitigate this as much as we can while a vaccine's getting developed. And hopefully that comes soon, and then we can get back to life as normal. And I'm going to forever tell people, if they ever give me a hard time for washing my hands too much again like they did before this pandemic, that maybe if everybody washed their hands a little bit more, this kind of stuff wouldn't happen. All right? Anyway, It's Mike, guys. I got another video coming soon. I want to give you my office tour. I finally got it finished up the way I like it. So I'm probably gonna, the next day or two, unveil that on you. It's where all the magic happens with my life, whether it's this YouTube channel or whether it's my corporate life. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.